You are now checked in to Stand Up New York Labs. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Mark, fake banter for the intro.
That's all I know how to do.
Great.
Good to be here.
Welcome to Tuesdays with
Stories.
Hit her in the face with a surfboard.
And then the duck fell out of his bag.
Surf's up. And she didn't even flush.
Knock, knock.
Who's there? Mark Norman and Joe List.
Yeah! This is Tuesdays with Stories, everybody.
Ah, that's terrible.
This is supposed to be cheesy.
My radio is spitting at me.
Hey, everybody. We are starting. This is Joe List. Welcome to Tuesdays with Stories. We hope that you have been enjoying the podcast. We got a very special episode
Oh, boy.
today.
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, that's Mark Norman over there.
Mark Norman here.
And I'm Joe List, and this is Tuesdays with Stories.
Good to be back.
Very exciting. We had exciting weeks, didn't we?
Woo-wee. What a weekend.
And for the most part, we haven't really talked to each other.
That's true. We
Since
try
last
to
weekend.
save it all up and then let it out on the mics.
We spent the day together yesterday, but we didn't speak once.
Not at all.
It was all hand signals.
Yes. You know, communication is 84% nonverbal.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
This morning on the way here, I was at a bodega, and this woman was, she had her phone. She was like FaceTiming. She was a deaf woman doing this, or whatever,
Sign language?
sign language. And there was like some feedback on her phone. So it was like, and like blasting throughout the bodega. And I'm like, how can you be this inconsiderate? And then I had no idea she's deaf, so she has no idea this is happening. But anyways,
boy. Well, at least it wasn't Sign Language, the best-selling book by Seinfeld.
I love that book.
I do too. I have read it twice.
Yeah, that book blew my mind when I was a kid.
If you see mine, there's a lot of underlining.
Yeah. Well, that's the episode. Keep it coming. No, this is an exciting episode because we have one of our favorite comics, Ted Alexandro, is here. Ted Alexandro, you've seen him on the television and
in bodegas.
I mean, come on. You're our first guest with real credits, so it's weird. Do we do credits or do we not do credits?
We had DeRosa, but his don't really count.
Yeah,
right. Let's be honest.
I can't be singing DeRosa. We got into it pretty bad. And
oh yeah, that was
now
fun.
we've made up and we love each other.
You guys got into it on the podcast?
Oh yeah,
on the podcast, before the podcast, after the podcast.
It got heated.
But we called each other, and there was a lot of I exchanged more I love yous with Joe DeRosa than I have in 2 years with my girlfriend. So it's all worked out.
Which is strange because I don't know if you do love him.
I don't know if I love her either, but
you guys are both mensches, aren't? Wouldn't you just call them mensches?
I don't know. That's a word I don't know what that means.
I love them both.
Like softies, but maybe temperamental. Like I don't see you as temperamental. Joe can be temperamental.
He can be temperamental. I can be a bit temperamental, I think.
Can you? So maybe the two together.
Yeah.
But you're both like softies.
Yeah.
So I can easily see the post argument phone call where you tell each other that you love each other.
Yeah, there was a lot of love exchanged. That it was good. It was years of sort of
build up.
Yeah. So it was good.
So Mark and I have to have it out today.
Yeah. If you could, that would be great.
I've got a list on you.
I could. So it was a hot weekend. Ted Alexandro is here. Ted's one of our favorite comedians, a great guy, and also in addition, a wonderful activist as well. Just an all-around great artist.
Yeah.
Good guy. But enough about him. Let's get to our weekends.
Oh boy.
Now, Mark, where'd you go? You went to a festival.
I was all over. I did 5 spots on Thursday night.
Wow.
Which was just not good. You know, it sounds good on paper, but you realize each spot you're freaking out about the next one.
Yeah.
So you can't even focus on the set.
That's what I do. I'm always like, Mark's working so hard. Mark and I are dear friends, and we have a friendly competitiveness. I'm like, I got to get those spots. I did like 5 in a night, and I was like, I can't ever do that again in my life. I'm jogging across town.
Even when you said it sounds good on paper, it doesn't sound But I'm curious to hear how it went.
Well, you know, the hard part is mapping out, because a lot of these are alternative shows in a bar. So which one's going to start late? Which one's going to start on time? You know, all that. Some of them start an hour late sometimes, and you make the call to go to that one first, but you're like, oh, I should have gone to this one second, because this one probably started on time. So it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And my last one was in Brooklyn. And I had to take a cab there, and it's an unpaid spot. So, yeah, I guess it's for the love of the game
Right.
at the end of the night.
I don't ever like jogging in stand-up.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, see, I can't handle that. I like 3 in a night if 2 are in the same place. That's how I like to do it. Stand up, go somewhere, come back.
Have you guys ever gone into a club out of breath? Like
Yes.
gone on stage out of
Yeah,
breath?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweating.
Yeah, the sweat. I did that here recently, and like my glasses are falling off, and I'm just sweating, and the crowd's like, "Is this guy on drugs?" I'm like,
Right.
So, anyways,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had one where like my back was like just wet.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
'cause, I think I had been biking and I had a backpack on, so I had biked and then there was some running involved too somehow. But yeah, I was wet and I could tell the crowd was more like worried, like trying to figure out what was wrong with me.
Right.
Right.
You know.
Well, because I feel like you want to do 5 sets, so you can really hammer out a
Right.
bit and have a bit by the end of the night. But when I'm jogging around, I'm not thinking about the bit, and I can't figure out.
Yeah, I
How
did
it went down.
I did the city bike recently, and that is a pain because you're like, all right, I'm on time, and then you can't get. I don't know if you've done it, but it's hard to get the thing back into the slot sometimes. So you're just
Right.
like, just jamming it in there, and then you're late because of that.
No,
I
I've never had a
haven't
bike
done-
involved in comedy.
Yeah, I bike in from Astoria sometimes if I just have, like one set or maybe two.
Yeah,
The bike over the 59th Street Bridge is nice, but you just have to bring a change of clothes because you're always gonna
Right,
right.
you're gonna be wet.
Right?
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's why I love the winter comedy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
for me.
You do love the winter.
Love the winter.
And you mentioned like between bits, like do you find like you do good thinking about bits in cabs?
Yes.
Yeah,
Or on
yeah.
the train.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
For sure. Last night I came up with something big after we were talking about it, after I dropped you out. In my car driving home, if I drive, it's always in the car. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
up with some good stuff.
Yeah, that's the time that I do like multiple sets is like if you have enough time to hop in cabs, like I think your brain is so kind of like, hyperactive and you're on adrenaline going and doing, 4 or 5 sets in a night.
Yeah.
You can really work out the bit and get tags, and I think you're just like locked into that
Yes.
spot.
Right.
Yes. Your brain is so busy it kind of pushes out the bullshit
Yeah.
that you don't need.
Right.
Just goes right to the good stuff.
Love the goods. And so how was the festival? Where was the festival?
So I did a.
Oh, I'm sorry. I cut off the 5 nights. Or
Oh
we
no,
got
that was it. That was just. it
Or was that
stressful.
was that a festival?
Yeah, it's called 5 Nights. No, I did the Lucille Ball Festival in Jamestown, New York, which is where she's from.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's a brutal gig because it's like 1 or 2 nights, and they fly you up, and you got to go to Buffalo, and then get a cab or a car, like an hour drive to Jamestown. So, you do all this, you get there, and you're like, all right, how many shows do I have? And they're like, you got 1 at 10:30, and you're like, jeez, I could have gotten like 4 in New York,
Right.
And it's a weird little ghost town. Everybody's really old and kind of hickish, and they all love Lucille Ball, and they don't really like jokes about Lucy, which was my whole thing. Because a lot of women are walking around dressed as Lucille Ball, so I opened up with, oh boy, I don't remember Lucille Ball being this fat. And boy, did they not like that. And,
That was your opener?
yeah. And I was like, I'm kidding. Take it easy. And, just a lot of jokes about stomping grapes and whatnot. And they weren't having it.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of comics there? Is it a big festival?
It's a pretty big fest. Like Keith Alberstadt was there, and Joe Mackey, and Mike Kaplan, and all these guys were there. So it's a fun hang.
Yeah,
but-
that sounds fun.
Oh, and by the way, here's a little shout out. I went and saw Kathleen Madigan at the theater. I had some time to kill. She is amazing.
She's great.
Great comic. I had no idea.
Yeah, I did the Lewis Black cruise with her like 2 or 3 years ago, and there's like 7 comics on the cruise. So it was like Lewis and Kathleen, Dal Marrera, John Panette, people like this, Vic Henley.
Yeah.
So you got to watch people on the nights that you weren't performing, and she was the one like above all that maybe just because I hadn't seen much of her recently, I came away thinking, man, she's really,
Oh yeah.
really great.
Great comic.
Yeah.
Funny. Laughing. I was sitting in the balcony just laughing out loud. It was
Oh,
crazy.
that's fun. It's fun when you get to just sit and watch a show. It happens so rarely
Right.
these days.
So yeah, that was it. Then we all got drunk. Fun story. We all got hammered, and the guy who runs the festival is like, "Hey, there's a skate park they just built," and we're all like, "Skate park in Jamestown? What the hell?" So we go to the skate park. We're all drunk skateboarding at like 4 in the morning. It was a really fun thing.
Wow, now you're a skateboarder too,
I used
or
to
a
skate.
former skateboarder.
Yeah, so I was dropping in, and people were like, "Who's this guy? Where'd he come from?"
What? Were you wearing a helmet and pads?
No,
And business?
I mean I was too drunk for that.
Oh, drunk.
Actually, I-
skateboarding with no helmet.
Makes me, yeah, I probably should have been wearing a helmet, but no, it was fun. I'm all bruised up, all like my thighs are all brown and purple, and that's what I tell people. Oh, did your girlfriend beat you skateboarding? Yeah, and yeah. So then, of course, they're like, all right, well, we got to drive you to the airport an hour early, and it's an hour and a half drive, so you got to be up by 7. So,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, hungover, brutal. Yeah, flew back.
Now, was Lucy at the festival?
The corpse was there.
Oh, they
It's in a glass box.
fly her in.
How was your Friday?
Oh boy, I had a hot one. I was in Helium in Philadelphia, which is one of the best
Ooh,
clubs
great
in the
club.
country. That might
Great
be the
club.
best one. It's
Love it,
amazing. Just great crowds. I was there with our friend Nick DiPaolo.
Ah,
And,
Firecracker Nick.
Yeah, he's a firecracker. He's a kind of gentler Nick, I think, to a certain degree, and
This
angry
is
at the same time.
kind of gentler, like in the broad sense of his recent evolution.
I think he's getting just well. For instance, this weekend I was talking to the MC Alex Grubard.
Oh, yeah,
nice
good
guy.
egg, good
yeah,
egg.
good guy. And well, Nick was on stage, and he's like, "Boy, this guy's on edge or whatever," because he yells and is angry. And then I was like, "He's actually gotten a lot better. This is like I said those exact words, a kinder, gentler Nick." And at that time, the green room is attached to the stage, and the doorman comes running through. He's like, "There's some asshole on stage," and he opens the door, and like some guy got up on stage with Nick.
Whoa.
This guy, he was all like pilled out, and he was like
Wow.
a gay guy, and Nick was sort of giving it to him a little bit, not for being gay, just for whatever, being like a shitty audience member. And the guy must have been on Vicodin or something. He was like drifting and just weird, and got on stage, didn't say anything. He was just standing on stage like a zombie, and the doorman came and like just grabbed him immediately and took him off. And Nick was just sort of waited for him to get off stage and was like, "That was crazy."
Wow.
But it was perfect because I was like, "This is a kinder, gentler Nick." And there's a guy on stage. Like 5-10 years ago, Nick would have thrown that guy through the fucking wall.
Right.
Nick's had a couple incidences where he got in fist fights in the middle of the show. I think I don't know if he wants me to talk about that, but
Right.
You don't really see that too often. Like you see a lot of crazy stuff, but you don't see people actually get on stage too often.
No,
have you had that happen before?
No. I had somebody come like approaching the stage, but nobody ever came up onto the stage.
I had somebody get on stage years ago. John Fish and Jason Cantor were both there, and it was like, this is also a gay guy. Maybe there's something in the gay community
Well,
getting on stage.
They like the stage.
This guy was an antique. He was like 85 years old, and I don't know if you've done this gig. You might have done it out in Western Mass. I can't think of the name of the gig, whatever, but
I think I did do that.
Store, I think it's called.
Oh, I don't know.
Something I can't remember. But anyways, it's a great gig. It's like a 600 seat like function room in like a hotel.
I think I did it.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're
It's a good gig, and it pays real well, and it's in like Ludlow, Mass, maybe, or something, or Springfield. Anyways, I'm on stage, and I was emceeing, and it's just packed. It's this great show. I'm killing, and this old man starts like walking towards the stage, and I can see him from way back there because he's yelling. He's like, you know, it's like not sensical, and he just keeps coming, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? Where is he going? He must be sitting up here or something. And he just kept walking and like walked on stage.
Uh-huh.
And he's like reaching for the microphone. I'm trying to keep the mic away from him because he's a crazy person.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at people being like, are we doing anything? And the crowd's laughing. They think it's part of the show, which someone said after the Nick thing. People always think this is part of the show.
Right.
And finally, normally, if it was a normal person, I would try to sort of shove him away, but I couldn't get physical with this guy because he's literally 80 years old.
Yeah.
And finally, he gets the mic and he starts singing into the mic, and he's like,
Wow.
he's like trying to tell a joke, and he tells this long joke, and no one's coming up. I was like, can anybody? I was
he
like
killing?
signaling, and I don't know who's running
Is he
it.
murdering with
The
it?
crowd was just confused. It was complete confusion.
Oh, okay.
He took the mic out of your hand?
Yeah. Finally, he like took it, and like again, I couldn't like wrestle with him because the guy might die.
Yeah.
And so he's just got the mic, and now that's the last thing you ever want in comedy is to lose the microphone.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say for somebody to die.
No, yeah. No, I don't mind if anyone dies. I'm fine with that. So finally, they came up and like they had to wrestle the mic out and like walk him off stage, and then it took a while to sort of recover from that. And after the show, everyone, like most of the people, were like, "Was that part of the show? Did you plan that? Did that guy come with you?" And I was like, "What part of that looked like it was a thing?"
Right.
And then we found out he was gay after because he started coming on to me real hard.
Ooh.
And asked me if I had ever tasted semen.
Wow.
Was a quote, and asked me if I wanted to taste his semen.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I did not.
That goes beyond coming on to you.
He was trying to come into me.
Harassment.
It was really, it was harassment. But when you're old, I think you get,
get
away
away
with
with
a
it. You
lot
get away
more.
with it.
That's
Yeah.
why these creepy old guys with the cane with the mirror underneath, where you're like, well, that's a
Right.
felony.
Right.
Oh, guys do that?
Yeah, they sell them in like stores
Huh.
as like a a gag
A
gift,
novelty.
I think,
Right,
a
right.
novelty.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but I think it's some sort of sex crime.
Well, the question is, have you tasted it?
I have not. No, I did. I have an idea of what semen tastes like, but
I gave it a shot once.
only from descriptions.
It's pretty tart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too filthy here, but
Right.
I'm curious. You know what I mean? Because I have my girlfriends have had to partake in this business, and so I'm like, I should get a little taste to
You
see.
should know.
But
You
then
should know what you're selling.
once well, I don't sell it. Once
you
I've
don't?
completed,
There's your mistake.
You're missing out, buddy. That's
sitting on
good money.
You're sitting on a gold mine, Trebek.
Oh, yeah.
Once I complete I've started thinking normal again, and I'm like, I don't need to ever partake in
Right. That's
such
the
a thing. My whole head is clear. I'm like, I shouldn't be here. I
Right.
should have a job. I should have gone to college.
Yeah.
I've smelled it, but I've never crossed the line to like
It's
like I've been on that border of like I wonder what this tastes like, but never. What made you cross the line to?
I was young and dumb. No. I don't know.
he was
Just
handsome and
curiosity killed
Yeah.
the cat. A lot of alone nights in a room in New Orleans. Hot nights.
Yeah,
Just me and a ceiling
this
fan.
turned into a Tom Waits song.
Yeah.
There's a piano right here if you want to.
It's very it's potent. I'll
Yeah.
tell you
It's
that.
like Bleach is from what I.
Well, that's that great Doug Stanhope joke. It's like, I had to, God made it taste like bleach, so it would remind you to do the laundry every now and then. That's a horrible joke. But,
Oh boy, I love that Stanhope.
boy, we really somehow took a weird turn there.
Got weird. But anyway, so yeah, that was Philly. A guy got on stage, and I love Philadelphia. That's one of the best cities, I think.
Did you go to the Mooter Museum?
I went. I think it's the Mutter Museum.
I thought it was Mooter.
Someone else told me Mooter, but everyone else called it Mutter.
Ah,
It's
boy.
you and Rebecca Trent say Mooter.
Google
and
it.
everyone else I've ever met says Mutter.
Call in with your answers.
I went.
What is it? Either pronunciation.
It's a museum of medical oddities, mostly from like the turn of the century. It's really great, and it's like
great.
an old building. It hasn't changed much, and it's all these like tons of craniums or what do you call it? Skulls. And they're like attached, and then there's like this guy who had like his intestines weighed like 600 pounds. He had like 600 pounds of shit, and it shows like his like kidney and like this weird genital stuff. There's
Yeah.
like women's rib cages when they wore those what do you call
Corsets.
corsets, and they would like shape their ribs, and they have like weird stuff like that. And
There's a wall of skulls, and under one skull will have a hole in it, one skull will be cracked, and it says like killed by his wife for cheating on him in 1840,
Yeah.
or kicked by a horse in the head, 1811. It's really cool stuff.
yeah,
There was one guy, he's in a case, and he was so fat that his body turned to soap, and they have it. They have the body.
What does that mean? His body.
Well,
turns to
soap is made of fat, and so he just eventually was so fat that over time his body turned to soap.
So he died,
Yeah,
and then they kept the body somewhere.
somewhere.
and
Yeah,
it turned into soap.
turned into soap.
yeah.
Pretty
There's a-
crazy stuff.
Wow.
They have a giant's skeleton. There's like a guy that's like 7'7" or whatever, and
It's a
pretty
great
cool.
great Mike Drucker joke where he says, "I went to the Mooter Museum. It's the only museum where the curator actually said, yes, that is fucked up." It's funny joke.
Yeah, it's a great spot. This time I went. I just walked around Old City, and then I went to great museums in that city. I went to the Museum of Art, which is exciting.
Is that the one where the Stallone thing, the Rocky?
Yeah, the
thing's
Rocky
at the
steps.
base of the.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah.
yeah.
They
it's
moved
pretty
it right
great.
because the statue used to be at the top of the steps.
Yeah.
Now it's down.
And
Towards,
they put some art there. That I always talk about. We talked about this last time. That's an amazing thing. I think we talked about this too, maybe at one point. That Sylvester Stallone, wrote this movie, refused to sell it unless he played the guy.
Yep.
Eventually got it sold, played the guy, and now in front of the Museum of Art, there's a statue dedicated to this character that he wrote. I mean, that's
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
That's pretty. He
to
wrote the script on an apple crate.
Really?
Yeah, true story.
Wow.
He was that poor.
It's amazing that he has a
Oh,
statue
you mean like
erected.
sitting on?
No. I wrote it on there.
He
on
wrote-
the wood.
He wrote like just the idea.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I read that on a popsicle stick, but
I'm not buying that or the soap.
look it up.
I read it on.
The phones are lighting up, by the way.
the switchboards. But anyway, so yeah, that was Philadelphia, and it was exciting for me because I last time I was in Philadelphia I quit drinking, and this is the first time back there, so it felt like Rocky coming back.
Oh yeah,
and it was very exciting. Last time I was there was New Year's Eve, and someone almost walked on stage that night too. So something in Philly. I don't know if it's gays or Philadelphians, but
right.
There's groups of people trying to get on stage. But last time I was in Philly, I was with my friend Gary Gelman, our friend, and I was drinking a bunch. I was expressing concern about trying to quit drinking. He gave me one of those online tests that he found where you 25 questions. You might be an alcoholic, and we did it. And if you answered 2 yes, you may be drinking too much. And then if you answered 5 yes, it's like you have a drinking problem, and in the future you should. And 8 is like you should seek medical attention. And I answered 22 of them. Yes. I aced it. And one of the no's was like by a technicality, too. So it was borderline 23.
Yikes.
So that was the last time I was there. And then this time I came back, and I'm 7.5 months sober. So it's pretty exciting. It was, that was quite a thrill.
Good for you.
What was the reaction when you saw 22, borderline 23 come up?
I was like, I better quit drinking. I was like, this is bad news. So I had like a drink that night, and that was sort of it. But the problem with the quitting drinking is I ran out of stories. We started a story podcast afterwards, and I just go to bed at 10 now.
Oh, interesting.
And so all my stories are taking place previous to January.
Well, luckily I'm still lush.
Yeah,
I've got a million. Do you drink, Ted?
I drink, yeah, but I mean, probably not the way you guys are thinking about drinking.
Yeah.
I have a nice glass of Chardonnay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you vomiting.
Yeah. I mean, one time there was a Christmas party at Caroline's. This is probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And, afterwards they would go around the corner to that bar that's right on 51st, whatever it is, 50th.
Playwright.
Yes. And so Attell showed up, and
oh boy.
Yeah. And nobody at this point, nobody would drink more than Attell. And as soon as he arrives, like kind of the party arrives.
Yeah.
And it's Attell, so as at that point, 30-something comic, he's the guy. And so he starts buying shots, and he's like, Alexandro, what are you having? And, I just, whatever you're having.
Chardonnay. In a shot glass.
Chardonnay. Chilled.
On the rocks.
Yeah. And so I, just out of, being at a Christmas party and everything else, I wind up, just trying to keep up with Attell.
Oh, boy.
And I passed out, and I slept in my car on Broadway. I
Whoa!
woke up in my car, it must have been around 10 o'clock the next morning. I just woke up, and I was, sitting in front of Caroline's, and I didn't even, know where I was or what happened. Yeah, but that was probably the worst.
Wow, and then Attell pops out of the back and says, boogly boo!
Attell is dangerous. Did you ever drink with Attell?
No, I never had the pleasure.
After. Yeah, he the first time I worked with him was 2004, and the guy, this is in Boston, the guy who booked me was like, he goes, drink with Attell, but don't drink with Attell.
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, you should be warning him about me. I thought I was like something, and he drank like no one I've ever he drank abnormally. He was drinking beer and shot of Jaeger, 2 shots for each beer, and we probably had 8 shots of Jägermeister in literally 20 minutes.
Woo!
And I was like, I can't keep drinking.
And I just remember,
like
we went to 2 other bars and came back because I forgot. He kind of wanted to keep moving.
Yeah.
So we went to 2 other bars, and then made it back to Playwrights at one point.
Wow.
But, yeah, it was just one of these things where the next morning you're trying to piece together. I think this happened. I think that happened.
Right.
But yeah, I just wound up passed out in my car.
Yeah, he was. He drank an ungodly amount.
Yeah, I remember going to the cellar when I first moved here, and he was still boozing back then, and he would have a big gulp, and it would be like Jack and Coke in a big gulp.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he was one. I think he probably would have gotten 25 out of 25 right. He would have 26 out of 25 right.
Yeah.
But the list of sober comics is getting.
Oh, it's getting big.
It's longer.
Is
and longer.
that in vogue now? Is it a lot of guys getting sober?
I think careers are picking up. I think people are just. I think Soder, had to do it. You had to do it.
Right.
DeRosa.
I want to do it. I think DeRosa is drinking again. Though.
Did he?
Yeah,
fall off?
He kind of goes back and forth.
Oh boy.
But I want to write a joke about this. Someone said that they're like, "Oh, everyone's sober now," and I was like, "Well, fuck me, I guess then." Sorry.
Oh right.
I'm just I jumped in. I was like, well, pretty sick.
Yeah.
It's taking everything I have to change my life. Sorry that it's just a cool thing.
The weird thing is, like, a lot of people say, like, you shouldn't drink before a show and all this. I find my hangovers are worse for me than the drinking.
Yeah, the hangover. I agree.
When
That's the
Yeah,
worst.
performing hungover, I am off. I'm foggy. I have no confidence. My anxiety's through the roof. The hangover is really the killer for me.
Now, have
Well,
you-
that's why people keep drinking, right? Like,
I guess so. Yeah.
you to right the ship. Have you ever done stand up drunk, like a headlining set?
once,
Oh,
not
really?
not a headlining set, but just I think it was a New Year's show at the old Gotham on 22nd Street.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those where you have two shows and it's New Year's and whatever. So like I don't drink that much to be. I'm kind of a lightweight, so like I think I
Right.
had maybe 3 drinks, whatever it was, and I was drunk on the second show. And I was like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. And I just remember it was bad. Like, I wasn't funny.
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't sharp. And, yeah, it was uncomfortable.
I
That's the
feel like it
worst
goes
feeling.
one way or the other. Either you're like, you get drunk and you're like, man, all this stuff, I had no inhibitions or whatever, and you're pulling stuff out, or it's just like, I was the worst ever.
Yeah.
Now you, if I remember correctly, were drinking recently in the winter, not long ago, and we're tweeting about it, tweeting a bunch.
Yeah, I've done
Is
that a few times.
Is that a
where,
thing? I was enjoying it very much, and I can't remember any of the things because I was probably drunk
Yeah.
too. But I remember you were like, hanging in, drinking, and you were tweeting out funny things. And
Yeah, I do that from time to time. Like, either I'll go out to dinner alone
yeah,
and drink and tweet, or, like, at home, like maybe just a couple times a year. But, yeah, it's fun,
Right, right.
It's fun to tweet drunk.
yeah. So that's fine. Greg Stone does that, and it's just nonsensical and just comes every
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah, but I think overall, like, there's kind of that school of thought of, like, what you were alluding to, where the artist is like, oh, I'm free, it opens up channels. And maybe there's something to be said for that with certain guys, but I think, like, over the long haul,
Yeah.
it's just like you can't sustain that.
Right.
And also just physically, like,
Right.
even if your art is great for it, it's like, well, you're killing yourself probably.
Yeah. I like feeling better. See, Mark and I are similar. I imagine that you sort of are too. With write much more better, efficient, in a good mood than a bad mood. People have all these sort of ideas of comics being
Yeah.
tortured and sad. But when I'm sad, I don't do anything. I just be sad.
Yeah.
Or
I'm
am
the same
sad.
way.
So I do.
That's a good point. Yeah, I never thought of that. Like, writing when you're in a good mood is funnier.
Way
usually.
funnier. You
Yeah.
know, you get these guys, you got a girlfriend now. There goes your act. It's like, no, I'm going to write about her.
Right.
I'll write about good stuff.
Yeah.
I hate that. Oh, you're getting laid? Whew. You're not funny. What? Sex is funny.
And how about drugs? You ever do comedy on drugs of any sort?
No, I haven't really done a whole lot of drugs. Like, I've probably smoked or ingested pot like less than 10 times in my
Right.
life.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What about shrooms? I could see you really taking the world on with some shrooms.
Thanks. Yeah, people have told me that, but no, I haven't. But I might. Like, a couple of friends have said, like, we should do that or whatever. I mean, I'm more open to it now. Like,
Yeah.
when I was younger, I was always I was kind of like too straight edge or too, like, even scared to do much. I was kind of even late, like, starting to drink. I was probably like 20 when I started drinking.
Oh, wow.
I was pretty, like, I was focused on, like, things I wanted to do, whether it was sports or music and stuff. And, I had seen, like, other, like, family members or relatives get fucked up, and I was kind of like, I'm just going to, stay on the straight and narrow. But then once I got into my 20s, drinking more, and then in my 30s, like, some experiences with pot and stuff. So I think, like, the older I get, the more I'm just like,
Right.
you're just, like, better able to just make informed decisions.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, I want to try this and see, like,
Right.
So I might, yeah.
Yeah. Mike Kaplan's a huge mushrooms
Huge.
proponent. That's a word.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
That's one of those words we were talking about before the show started that we use that are not 100% sure what it means. Mark and I think Ted.
Proponent?
You don't seem like a guy that uses a lot of words that you don't know what they mean.
That's true.
I mean that in the biggest compliment I can give to a person.
But you've been right on with all three that you weren't sure about.
I just have real confidence problems. But I'll do that with names of a person I've known, like 100. This happened to me this weekend in Philly. The manager, I'm like, this guy's name is Jeff, and I'm talking to Jeff. And then a guy comes over, and when it's time to introduce him, all my confidence is shot. And I'm like, hey, Tom, this is Jeff.
Yes,
And I'm like, just
right.
looking at his face. I'm like, did I nail that? Like, even I can know the person for years. and I'm always scared. I always want to do the thing when people are like, "What's that guy's name?" and then give them the wrong name, and I always forget to do it. You know when someone's like, they forget. If you walk in, there's a guy here that you don't know, and you're like, "What the hell's that guy's name again?" And you're like, "It's Marty," and you're like, "Oh right, Marty." I always want to tell him the wrong name.
Oh, to fuck with them.
Yeah.
I see.
And then it's right after I don't do it that I'm like, "Man, that could have been fun."
Right.
But-
Especially if the name's fun, like, Aesop or something like that.
I was thinking Ronaldo.
Well, that works.
All right.
So let me ask you guys. You had said about Mike being a big proponent.
Oh yeah,
of-
that's what I started. to
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about.
So he had mentioned that when I did his podcast. He mentioned that. Did he come later to that as well, or like?
I think so.
I don't know. I think recently he started doing them frequently,
Yeah.
like once a month, and he writes a bunch on them. He said because the way Mike writes, he'll just have his sort of voice recorder and he just records. He doesn't really sit down to write. And he said if he's tripping, is that the right
Yes.
term for it? For 4 hours, at the end of that 4 hours, he'll have an hour recorded because he just keeps thinking everything is interesting. And then out of that hour, he'll have like 10 minutes that's material.
Have you guys done it?
No, I've never done it. I have such horrible anxiety and mental illness myself.
I mean, I wouldn't. I've done it a couple times, and the best way to describe it is it takes the filter out of your brain,
right.
and it just lets you think freely. It's pretty amazing. I would highly recommend it. Take a night off, maybe 2 nights off, and just do it.
Yeah.
And be with people you're close to and comfortable with.
Right.
And it's really a good time.
Yeah, I sort of intend to with Mike at some point, but I feel like I got to get at least a year or two of sobriety underway
right.
before I start
That's a
dabbling
good
in
point.
mushrooms.
That's a good point.
Maybe 5 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of just meditation and quiet contemplation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I feel, it's I'm sure it's not comparable, but I feel as though I'm in that state.
Right.
A lot of
Yeah.
kind of unfiltered thinking
Yeah.
stuff. So to me, it doesn't feel like that big a leap. But I mean, I'm open, of course, and I'm sure it is a big leap. But I feel as though meditation and things like that maybe take the brain into similar states.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been doing a lot of meditation myself. Thich Nhat Hanh, do you know that guy?
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that guy. He's going to be at the Beacon Theater soon. And Dan Cook.
He's
Not the same night, different nights.
He's opening for the Allman Brothers.
Yeah. But anyways, I love that guy, but I have no stories about him, I suppose. But I'm reading one of his books right now. Written over 60 books, that guy.
Yeah, Buddhist. He's Buddhist, right? Or
Yeah,
Tibetan.
he's a Buddhist monk.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Vietnamese and hell of a guy.
A lot of videos on YouTube. as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, great guy. Highly suggest. We
check it out.
didn't even get to your weekend. Did you have anything fun happening this
No,
weekend?
I took off, man. I took off last week.
Now you're a guy who takes a lot of time off.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, more than most. I feel like. Why is that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I take a lot of time off, but probably compared to most comics, I take a lot of time
compared to Mark over here,
off. Yeah.
I've got a problem.
this guy he hasn't had a night off from comedy since he was 11.
Why do I do it? I think, well, like being 20 years in now,
Right.
I go with the flow of life more.
Right.
So if I feel as though like I need time to do other things or to do nothing,
Right.
it's almost like my same approach with relationships. I feel as though some people they have this incessant need to be in a relationship,
Right.
Yes.
and they break
Yeah.
up with one, then they go on to the next.
Yeah, I've never had that.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like I don't need stimulation, be it like in a relationship or like constant stimulation from my work life. I'm completely happy taking a week or more off. I don't have this anxiety of like, oh my God, am I gonna, am I missing out on something, or
Right.
am I still gonna be funny 2 weeks from now?
That must be amazing.
That's
What's that like?
Mind blowing. And I wish I had called you because I took 4 days off 2 months in a row, and both family vacations and day 2. I'm like, everyone's getting better than me. I hate
Right.
myself. What am I doing? I should kill myself. I need a drink. I'm like,
And then the guilt. Do you have guilt? Like, oh,
Yeah.
what am I being lazy? I'm being lazy.
Well, again, look, I'm 44 now, so
Yeah.
maybe you guys are in your 30s, right?
Yeah.
So
29.
29. So yeah, probably when I was in my 20s, I was a little more intensely focused, and maybe I thought more that way. But as I've gone along, and even then, I think I kind of like I remember taking trips to Europe and stuff, take like 2 weeks off, go to Europe.
Wow.
You know what it is, man? Like you have to have life experiences
I
too.
agree.
you
I
know?
agree.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying life experiences so then you can write about it.
Right.
I'm talking about just living life. You
Right.
know, I think like we get into this mindset of like hyper achievement and validation of like you as a person is tied in with what are you doing.
Yes.
Whereas
definitely.
like just like this is like kind of a modern mindset. Whereas, years ago, people just lived life, and it wasn't about achievements or awards or, like
TV credits.
yeah, all those things, man. Like a lot of times too, like I'll think in the context of like if we were just the funny guys in our village 500 years ago, maybe that's what we would have been, right? Like the storytellers that the people in our village know us as orators of some sort, storytellers, and that's who we would entertain. But now because of this vast network of comedy clubs and the internet, and like now it's like, well, how big do you want to be?
Right.
Whereas, like, is that any less valid than the guy who or girl who was, 1,000 years ago was the storyteller in their village?
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Isn't that so weird that you can go back thousands of years and there's still the same kinds of people? There's the mean guy, there's the funny guy, there's the prankster, there's the dick, there's the helpful guy, the loving guy. People haven't really changed that much. There's still every same character.
Right.
Yeah, but I do think like it is to our detriment to have this kind of unlimited ceiling on like how big do you want to be, how many accolades, how famous, how wealthy, because you can easily get into like the wormhole of like, well, it's it's never enough, like you get one thing and you're
Yeah.
immediately looking to, well, what's the next thing?
Right.
Oh, we've seen that.
That's what Nat Han talks about a lot. I think for me with comedy, I shouldn't say wasted. That's a bad term, but I spent so much time not working when I was in Boston when I first moved here, drinking and not really writing or doing anything. So I feel like I'm like now I got to do the opposite of that and make up for all that time that I had lost, which is not maybe not the best attitude because that was in the past or whatever. But
I
What-
feel- sorry, go.
But was it really lost time? I mean, that
You had fun.
Is there such a thing as lost time if now it led you to
Yeah,
where
it's-
you're at, and
that's what I try to do daily. Is that I'm happy today and I got here, so all of that was sort of worth it or whatever. But
I find that the working makes me happy. Is that weird?
no, that's great. That's the goal of life, I think.
I guess, yeah. So people always say, hey, why don't you take time off? And I'm like, I'm enjoying busting my ass.
Right.
And then you get stuff out of it, so you're like, oh, it paid off.
Yeah. No, nothing
yeah.
wrong with that.
For me, the way that I kind of find myself checking for balance. If I feel there's an imbalance of like all I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
I mean, I have family, I have friends, I have other things outside of comedy. Like, am I neglecting that? Am I neglecting just quiet time to like go to the beach or
Right.
take a bike ride or just sit in a park? Just like I need that balance of quiet and what you're describing, the kind of hyperactivity of like, and I love those periods where like you're really inspired and
Yeah.
working a lot. I'm not saying that, that I don't like that as well. But for me, like I find that if I have the balance of the two kind of states of being, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to do that. Struggle with it, I suppose. But in the end, it is just a job, comedy. So you don't
That's
wanna,
true. It's a cool job. It is a job.
it's the best one that I've heard of.
Well,
Yeah.
For me. I haven't heard of a better one. If I heard of a better one, I might pursue it. But so far, this is
yeah.
coolest one I've sort of heard of.
I agree, but I also see like guys that were peers of mine in their 40s, whether it's Greg Giraldo, Patrice O'Neill, Mike DiStefano, Rich Ramirez, these young guys who all died in their 40s. Rich might have been in early 50s. So to me that's another kind of gives me pause to like step back and say, these guys are all great comics, very accomplished. But it makes me kind of assess like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die at some point.
Right.
It might be, next month. It might be 50 years from now. But like, what are your priorities? And are you kind of living like a healthy, whole life?
Right.
You
right.
know, because then once you're gone, what's gonna be left behind?
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, definitely like, because I think it was in such a short period of time too that all those guys passed that, it makes you assess those things.
That's a good point.
Um,
But you don't have like any of the. I think a lot of comics have this, and you seem more enlightened. But you don't have the like, look what Louis doing. I want to be that kind of feeling. That kind of, not really envy, but like you're like, I wish I was there. Is that a thing with you?
No, not really. Again, maybe when I was younger,
Yeah.
maybe I had a little more of that. But now, if I see whether it's Louis or whoever has something going on, sometimes it'll either be inspiring, like, I should kind of think about projects that I want to create, or sometimes it'll just be like, oh, I'm happy for them. But I don't even think I want that.
right.
Right.
Just it depends on what the thing is. If it's something that I feel that I could do, or that I'm motivated by, then sometimes it'll serve to kind of give me a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Those kick in the ass. I feel like I get that feeling all the time. That I got to step it up. But that might be my nuttiness.
Right. But
Talking.
you seem to be having fun and enjoying yourself
I'm
and
having
a
a blast.
great disposition. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I like the idea of Ted just derails your career.
I'm like, I'm gonna hit the beach.
Mark, you just have a long beard. You're just
Right.
living in Antarctica or whatever.
But you know what? I mean, like, we're all funny guys. It's just who we are. Mark, you're a funny person. Like,
Oh, hey,
nothing
thanks.
can change that. Joe, you're so funny. You guys are just funny people. So it's like, we don't have to prove that
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's who you are. That's part of who you are, right? So, the way that you develop that and work on it, and that's all, that's the interesting path of how it unfolds.
Right. See,
But
lately-
you're already funny.
Right. I've been looking at stand-up lately more, and I've gotten in a position which I find very liberating to worry less about what people are getting and doing, which is nice. But now I want to explore comedy. I want to see how good I can get at this
yes.
art form.
Yes, I like
where it's
that.
like I want to get in there and see what I can pull from me personally, like Pryor and Hicks, and I think Nick and Louie and yourself. Where can I reach down and get thoughts
Yeah.
and my feelings? What is me, and how good I can be by how hard these people are laughing and how much they're affected by it, and just get in there and explore. And I want to be as good as I can possibly be while still being a good uncle and friend and brother and all that
Yeah.
stuff that's important, and traveling and all that stuff. But from a job, I have to make a living, but I also want to make a living, and it's an art form that I want to be not better than everyone else, but as good as I can possibly be. I would like that if as good as I can possibly be is, in my opinion, better than everyone else as good as they could possibly be. But I don't want to be driven by that. I want to get to a place where, and we were talking about this yesterday, where I don't know if you have this, where what you write initially is close to what is the final bit that kills, where you're just, it's going straight from you to them, and it's working without a whole lot of effort in between. We are just like, this is how I feel about a thing, and they're like, we love that.
Right.
And yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
Do you have the thing? I feel almost embarrassed that I have this, but I have a thing where I'm like, I want to tell a joke and have comics go, oh, I like that. That's good. Sadly, I want respect of other comics too much, maybe. Sometimes I worry about them more than the crowd, I think.
Yeah, but I think that's natural, though,
Oh,
because
is that
you
okay?
respect them
Yes.
so much. So you want them to respect you, and then everyone respects, and it's a love fest.
It's a love fest.
Yeah, but I think ironically, like the best guys don't care about that at all.
I know. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. That's why it worries me.
Yeah.
Do you think
it's-
that, though? I think Attell is very concerned with what people think of him.
Patrice
Don't
was
you think
too,
that?
I think.
But I think maybe in the big picture they are, but like when they're up there, I think that they're
Right,
just
right.
they're playing their instrument sort of, and it's not a mental thing of like being aware of anyone else or trying to please, and also like the comparison thing to me is kind of useless because you were talking about Kathleen Madigan before.
Yeah.
She's like a consummate comedian, consummate artist. No better or worse than Louis C.K., who's also a consummate artist,
Right.
So it's like when you get to that level, I think, of expression where your voice is so crystal clear.
Yes.
You're not really competing with anyone else. It's just
Right.
like, this is what I do, and someone else can't really do what I do.
Right.
So I think, the comparison thing is kind of counterproductive. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, this is such a wonderful conversation.
I
here.
know.
I would love. Do you have any? You mentioned Greg Giraldo, and he was everyone that I think is in comedy sort of idolized him or thought he was great, and you knew him pretty well. Do you have any Giraldo stories you'd like to share, or experiences, or thoughts, or fun time? Were you guys sort of together? Or are you watching him or anything?
Greg and I just kind of came from the same part of Queens.
Right.
So I had that added layer of like a guy that grew up relatively close to where I grew up, and also I had one of my best buddies in high school knew Greg's family just kind of as a completely separate thing.
Right.
That I didn't realize until years later. They like went to the same church or school or whatever it was.
What part of Queens is this?
Well, Greg, I think, grew up in Flushing or Fresh Meadows or Bayside, like that kind of area. And I grew up in Belrose, which is close by.
Okay.
But, it's kind of
Suburban?
Yeah, it's kind of suburban Queens.
Okay.
It's kind of eastern, kind of Long Island, Queens border.
Uh-huh.
So just like having that connection with him, and then like when I was starting out, that he, maybe because he knew that, and like we had some talks about growing up there, and at one point we had the same manager. Rick Dorfman was managing him, which was part of the reason that I decided to go with him. But yeah, just like I spent a lot of time with Greg, just around the New York clubs, really.
Right.
And it was that relationship of probably somewhat similar to what you have with Nick, of
Right.
just a guy that you have so much respect for, who becomes a friend.
Right. Yeah, we also came from the same sort of neighborhood, but Nick is 20 years older than I am, so it's more like a father-son type thing. And he yells at me a lot more than I imagine Greg yelled at you.
I met Greg like a couple times, and he always seemed to be upbeat. He
Yes.
seemed like a positive, good guy. Never seemed sad or anything. But I didn't know him that well. But
No, that's the way he was. He was very kind of happy-go-lucky, silly. But yeah, as time went on, you kind of wondered if it was masking like
right.
pain
Right.
and suffering and the disease. Because I remember like seeing him at the Cellar, kind of maybe in the month before he died, and kind of just getting a feeling that he didn't look good.
right.
Yeah.
Even though he was kind of that same, the way the demeanor was still kind of goofy and silly.
Right. Greg was there for one of my only true snap sets, certainly the worst
Oh.
one, at Comics, the old Comics
Yeah.
on 14th Street there. And I was not a great comedian at that point, or a really good one even. But I was on stage doing my act, and I mentioned that I was from Boston. This woman was like, boo, boo, which is really an obnoxious way to behave. And I was like, all right, well, that's not really necessary. And then she just kept yelling boo, literally booing, boo, like this. And I was like, can you stop doing it? Like, I don't even understand, like, what's going on here. And no one sort of said anything. And she just kept, like, continuously yelling boo. And so finally I just lost my mind, and I was like, you fucking cunt. And it's the only time I've ever called someone a cunt in my life. And I was like, you fucking cunt. And I was like, I hope you die. Like, I was like, I literally hope you die
Yeah.
in an accident. I hope you get in a car. I was like, actually, I hope you don't die. I hope you get paralyzed and burned. And it was like this thing. And then I turned to her husband. I was like, you let your wife behave like that? And then she's like, what do you mean, let me? I'm like, well, someone has to stop you. You're out of
Right.
control. This is right. And I just went crazy, and then they started flashing the light. And I was like, all right, well, good night. And I walked off, and then Greg was back there, and he was like, wow, That was great. And he was just laughing. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, you're on the show. Like, I can't. But that woman was booing, and he's like, no, I don't care. He's like, that was hilarious.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was fun, but like it seemed like it did not affect his life really one way or another.
Right.
And then, which is weird because they ended up apologizing to me that no one did anything, and then I got banned for like 4 months.
You got banned?
Well, they were like, we don't want to reward good behavior. We can't just have you back the next week. And yeah, I mean, I was yelling, but I got so.
Oh, I know that rage, that feeling.
That
I had almost the identical story in Atlantic City one time.
oh
Really?
Yeah, my brother and an old friend of ours, they drove down with me for the gig. And same thing, exactly what you're describing. Maybe it was the same woman, just this like obnoxious woman interrupting like my first, I don't know, 5-10 jokes. And I was, probably pretty new, maybe in the first 5 to 7 years of doing comedy. And yeah, just lost it. And then I called her a cunt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the go-to.
Yeah, it's weird. I can't picture you calling somebody a cunt.
I can't either.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do it now. I mean, never say never, right? Because we all know those certain nights, man.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, now I try to sort of do it, and Dane did this on his CD. Well, he snapped a little bit, but he was just like, seriously, man, you're interrupting the show, and I'm going to have you thrown out if you don't stop. And I like to sort of try to do it like that now, where I'll just stop and talk, like, step out of the act and go, you're really sort of screwing up the show and interrupting, and it would be way better if you didn't do that. Thank you. And then get right back into the joke.
Yeah.
And I actually had that happen on a Letterman audition at UCB recently, and I had the set of my life. I feel like I'm close to getting Letterman, but as in the middle of it, these two guys were just talking, and I was like, hey, this is like a really big deal for all of us, and you're really screwing it up, so please stop doing that. And then went right back into the act, and the next joke worked. People sort of respected and appreciated. They're just like, okay, that was a nice moment or whatever.
Because in your head, you're like, I got to do something funny here and shut this guy down and make it funny and interesting, but you really
don't always
have to
be
that.
funny. Like it's sort of like we were talking about where you've proved you're funny. They know that you're funny and you're good.
Right.
And they like the jokes enough. They're like, you're going to like the next joke too, but before that happens, you are ruining this for me.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's, in a way, it's a better approach because, that other mindset of, like, I have to deal with everything in a funny way, even if someone's being a complete asshole.
Yeah.
I have to find the funny,
Yeah.
But, like, I had a thing in Vancouver, like, 2 months ago, maybe, where it was the same thing. A guy was repeatedly, he was drunk, it was his birthday, repeatedly interrupting, and initially I said, can you please stop, it's disruptive. And then second or third time, I just said, I'm not coming back out on stage until this guy's gone. And then I went backstage.
Wow.
That's amazing.
They threw him out, and then I came back out.
Oh, that's great.
And the
Well
crowd
done.
clapped. Yeah, and the other comics were like, "Wow, man, is that how you deal with it?" And I was like, "No, I've never done that before."
That's how we do it in America, baby.
That's beautiful. I love it.
I saw Teld last week do a thing like that, but it was so dead on that it was funny. Like, he wasn't trying to be funny, but this guy kept heckling, and he's like, Tell's like, it's weird. Like, you don't even realize that you suck. Like, we all hate you. You're that guy that everyone hates, and you have no idea. Like, you're just living in this world, and you have no idea we all want to kill you. And the guy was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you see? And it was murder, but he was just being honest with the guy, and it was a great way to handle it.
That's fun. I had one here a few weeks ago, not totally different from that, but I was downstairs. We're at Stand Up New York right now, and I was on stage, and this woman was, like, talking really loudly, like, ordering a drink. She was like, should we get Bud Light? Do you want to get 2 Amstel?
Yeah.
And I was like, ma'am, could you do that much quieter? Like, it's unbelievably distracting. And she was like, oh, sorry. And then she apologized, and they started, like, I think Becky was the manager. She started walking closer to, like, talk to this woman.
Yeah.
And she stopped, and the woman stopped and just started listening to the show. And then I looked at the next joke, thinking this woman hates me, and she was just dying laughing.
Wow.
Well, it was a good moment for me, where it was like this incident where this woman literally was unaware that she was talking loud enough that it was distracting, and I was like, "Can you stop doing that?" And she did, and just enjoyed the show.
Crazy.
I was like, it was like getting a laugh. It was like making a connection with an audience member.
Right.
You're like, "Oh, that was nice."
Yeah.
I think we're all, as comics, you have to be very self-aware. So to see someone who's just like, I'll get a Bud Light, like, how can you be so unself-aware? It's
Right.
crazy.
I feel that way all the time with people that just talk naturally loud.
Yeah.
Where I'm so embarrassed that people are hearing anything that I'm saying that I'm just whispering all the time.
I know. It blows my mind.
Yeah, I think like we're so heightened on stage too, and like so, it's like that raw nerve thing of like, you know, and I think especially when you're starting, you interpret everything as an assault. Like,
Yeah.
like how could you do this to me?
Right.
Right.
I'm up here, you know,
Yes.
I've put hours and years and, you know, like your audition or whatever, you know,
Right.
how could, you know, like you could easily go off on this tirade
oh,
because
God.
it means so much to you.
Yeah, yeah.
But then to be able to kind of just take it, you know, and do what you did, you know, that's as much a skill of a comic as any joke that we do, right?
Right.
Just diffusing what could explode into a horrible
Right, right.
situation.
Yeah, the Letterman thing was fun because I walked out and I was like a hero. All the comics were like, "We love you."
Yeah.
It's like I felt like Rocky. It was
Right.
exciting.
It just bums me out. There's no respect for comedy. No one has any respect for comedy. It bums me out. It's like this incredibly difficult thing that we all work years and hours on, and no one gives a shit.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, I shouldn't say no one, but like, you know, never wins an Academy Award. You know, you're the funny guy, goofball over here, but it's never like this guy's an artist or this guy's really perfected this. And I don't know. I feel like no one really gives a shit. I mean, they're coming out to shows.
I think
so that's
people do,
nice.
yeah, because I think comedy is still as big, if not bigger, a draw than it's ever been. So,
Yeah.
you know, just because, I mean, you know, there's always going to be the asshole at the show who
Right.
wants to be funny or
Right.
disruptive or whatever, but there's still a room full of people there that came out to see comedy, you know.
That's
so
true.
clearly people, I think, still are. There's something fascinating about like one person in the front of a room with just a microphone
Oh, yeah.
making you laugh. You
Love
know?
that.
Right.
I have two theories on it.
Best.
I think one, everything is all on a screen now. Everything's internet or TV. You know, you're just on Twitter. So to see someone live is fun. And then two, I think we're more PC than ever. You know, everybody's buzzword, and you can't say this, and he's getting fired, and Paula Dean, and this guy. But comics still say these things, and I think that's fun to hear. Like we can't say it, but so let's go listen to it. You almost have to fill that void somehow.
Yeah, it's one of
Yeah.
the few places where there's still complete freedom of speech.
Yeah,
for
barely.
Well, during the show, after
Yeah,
the show, there can
right,
still be.
right.
But
But it's fun to hear because it's all a lot of bullshit, you know, like, hey, you can't say that about that people, but then you say it at a comedy show and everybody laughs.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I thought it wasn't true, you know,
Right,
but
right.
maybe it is, you know.
But also you do it with a high degree of skill. You know?
Exactly.
It's like that's the other thing. It's like you're still walking a line, but there's an artistry to even saying those things that may be a little bit like,
Right.
you know, off color or whatever.
right.
like Greer Barnes has that bit where he blatantly it's doing a racist Asian accent, but he says, "Hey, Mr. Brown guy," and so it's like, oh, the Asian's making fun of him, and so
Right.
then it hits.
Right.
Right.
That's a skill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no PR at a comedy show. You gotta love that.
Right.
No PR guy.
Right.
You know, at work, if you say at an office job, you say faggot, PR is coming down on your ass.
Right.
But not at a comedy show.
But now the people
Yeah.
have everyone has a voice now where they can
blogs.
email and
Yeah.
blog and tweet and
That's true.
yeah. Nick was running into people were complaining to the manager about certain things he was saying, or whatever. But that's sort of their right.
Yeah, of
too,
course,
and then
of course.
it's sort of a back and forth, and they can be upset and
Right. But so can
whatever.
we.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, I know we gotta wrap this up, but I gotta ask Ted this. This is a question I've always wanted to ask Ted, and it's probably gonna get uncomfortable,
yeah,
but I gotta do it.
I hope you come back. By the way, this
Yeah,
is
this
lovely.
is great. I'm
Of
on
course.
cloud nine here. But so one of my favorite comics. I watched you on TV even before I started doing comedy. You know, just to show how old you are.
Right.
And you know, big fan. Love your stuff. You're one of those guys who's the same guy on stage as off, which I think is a true test to how good you are. But I gotta ask, what the hell is your weakness? What are you, killing kids? There's got to be something. You're an activist, handsome guy, great basketball player, fantastic comic, nice guy, well-rounded. You play the piano. You probably play other instruments. You probably speak 8 languages for all I
You must
know.
have a tiny cock.
Something's
Just
going on.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's an innie.
Yeah. What is it, Ted? Do you?
That's not my weakness.
Oh, jeez. Do you hate Greeks? There's got to be something. The hell is this? No one can be flawless.
No, I'm.
He's
well,
a closet
thanks.
Republican.
Uh-huh.
I've seen it.
I mean, it's if I was well raised, it's my parents. There's 5 kids in my family,
Uh-huh.
and
I met your
I just
parents.
came. Yeah, I just came
Great
from a great home that gave me, I think, like I said, the word balance before.
But my parents are amazing, and I'm a sicko. Like there's got to be something.
There was some hugs lacking in your family. Somewhere
No, a lot of
along the way.
hugs. I mean, it's all me. They did a great
Maybe
job.
the hugs are too long.
Maybe too long with a boner. Come on, Theodore. There's got to be
You
something.
want a weakness? I don't know.
Do you
I don't
do you
cook- I
shoot
don't cook
pigeons on
often
your
enough.
roof? Something? You
I
don't cook often enough. Jesus Christ.
I go out to eat too much. No, I'm sure I have plenty of weaknesses, but I mean, I don't know how to answer other than to say thank you for the compliment.
You're the only non-female whose Facebook I check every day to see what you're doing.
See my
Other than that,
see
it's
my
all-
photos.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah.
Everything else is just.
It's you with a shovel helping a hobo,
It's like Mark's bit. It's all just looking for swimsuits.
Yeah. Yeah, do you
Which
like
is swimsuits is such a funny term, by the way. Swimsuit.
Oh,
It's
swimsuit.
so much funnier than bathing suit
That's
or
true.
bikini.
You know what I just saw today? Because it's a windy day in New York. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Like I saw 3 girls' asses like with the
The
skirts.
dress?
Yeah.
Oh,
I got a bit about it.
love
Oh,
that.
yeah, it's the best.
I didn't realize that like they'll wear like thongs with those. I figured if you wear that dress,
Right.
you'll kind of cover it up a little.
No, 'cause
But I
they-
saw like 3 like straight up asses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
On
amazing.
my way here.
What
Yeah.
part of town?
Just Midtown.
Yeah.
You get a bench.
I have a joke about that. I call my parents to tell them it's like an exciting moment in a man's life. It's like the high point of an adult. It's like winning the lottery without buying a ticket.
It's like a
We can both just go into our bits.
right. It's like a religious moment.
Yeah, it really is exciting. And then the sort of the joke of my joke is sometimes women will just walk with their hand holding their dress. I'm
Yes.
like, who are you to play God? You
You
made your clothing decision, and this is all I have. So.
Isn't it crazy how much we like the women's body? Like, yeah, we praise it, we worship it. I mean, sure, there's a couple rapes and like gropes, but I mean, it's almost worth it for how much flattery we feel for it. I mean, it's
Unbelievable. I enjoy a woman's body sometimes, not even sexually, where I'm just like, oh, that looks amazing.
I agree.
love that.
I agree.
But I will
Yeah.
I will say that the non-sexual, I have that with a guy's body too, where I'm like, that guy looks fucking amazing.
Oh no, I get that too.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't feel it with either of
especially
you, but-
this time of year, I find myself just looking, and depending on the day, like sometimes either if you're in that horny phase, it's like, oh Jesus,
Yeah.
But other times it is just like the beautiful, like, wow, that girl is amazing.
Yeah.
like from head to toe. Just-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That looks great. Sometimes they'll have like a backlist. I'll be like walking
Oh,
behind a girl with the
oh,
back, and
love the
I want
back.
to eat their shoulder blades. And
Yeah.
just saw them up and
I'll see
eat
a,
them.
I'll see a girl with like a midriff, just the stomach show. I'm like, I want to eat dinner off your stomach.
Yeah,
It's
I
crazy.
just want to own it. I want to break her in half and swallow her.
Yeah, and then you want to go up to him like, it's not fair that I can't touch you. Like, it's kind of mean what you're doing.
Well, that part I disagree. I think it is fair that you.
Well, that's how much I want it.
I
Some
feel like
of
we have
what
to-
you just said was odd.
Yeah,
That
this
you
is.
want to cut them up and eat.
I just get.
Wait,
I
did
just
you
want
say
to.
that?
I kept
I
saying
missed
that about.
part. Holy shit.
I kept saying that about Philadelphia. I'm like, I just want to pick up the whole city and just fuck it. I just want to
yeah.
swallow Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I feel that way with New York sometimes
I think
too.
I tweeted that same thing about I wanted to fuck San Francisco.
Oh, great city.
Yeah.
You
What
just-
a city.
Oh boy, I just
Yeah.
want to take it. It's sort of like the monologue in American Beauty, where you feel you're
Yes.
getting all of the beauty at once. You just can't take it.
Yes.
I feel that way on like beautiful days in the city or like a fall day in New York. I just want to shove it all into pill form and eat it.
Yeah.
And that's when Thich Nhat Hanh comes in, and you just gotta breathe and enjoy it.
You know that the challenge for me as a male is like that fine line between like obviously you have the physical needs and the sexual impulse and stuff, but then like again the older I get, like I try to balance that with like, well, how much of that is like ingrained into us or conditioned into males of like thinking of women as sexual objects or, objectifying or even degrading, so I try to like, just in terms of like thinking about how am I conditioned as a male to almost have the hierarchy of like, we are the predators and they're the prey. you know?
Right.
Right.
You don't think that's primal? You don't think that's innate?
I mean, maybe to a degree, but I think it's definitely heightened in the way that we're socialized and media and commercials and everything is so like, the way the woman's body is portrayed and it, that it is the body is, is kind of foremost in, you're not thinking about them intellectually or
Right,
you know.
right.
So yeah, I mean, those are things that I think about. Like, is it a form of violence sometimes in the way that in the way that we're conditioned to think about women, while still balancing that with like, yeah, I want to fuck
Right.
somebody.
It is it's a tough thing with the ladies sometimes because there's a lot of like, all you want to do is bang me, you weirdo, and then like you'll go out on a date with them. And they're like, well, how come you haven't tried to bang me yet? And you're like, well, geez, I don't know how you want me to be. It's tough sometimes to figure out.
Right. Well, see, I have this thing with that. This is why I think it might be more primal because I'm like, I just want to fucking just get that girl and grab her by the hips and fuck. But then if I talk to her, I'm like this. Are you mad? Are you okay? How do you do? And then when it gets to sex, and I'm like, all right, I'll be gentle here. Does this feel good? Does that feel all right? So I lose all of that once I'm actually in there
With
because
the
I
woman.
want to be.
Right.
Yeah, because then they're a
and-
full human being, right?
Right.
When we
Yeah.
just see them walking down the street, it's just an ass. And
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Which, I'm trying to work on that with men and women too. I'll walk by dudes and I'm like, I fucking hate that guy. Just no reason. He's got, whatever. He's
a nice ass.
yeah. He has a nice. He has a nice
I wish
ass.
my ass was that nice. I hate him.
Boy, I feel like we have to
I feel like
wrap
we
it
should.
up
This
here.
is the-
Our producer fell asleep. And,
Oh, boy.
my
Yeah.
stomach is growling.
This is a great one. Boy. Well, I should probably wait till the mics are off to start raving about the episode.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
All right, well, let's. Ted, you want to throw out your Twitter and all that good stuff? The website?
Sure. At Ted Alexandro on Twitter and tedalexandro.com.
Cool.
And, yeah. I just got on Instagram. I want to plug my Instagram. I'm
Plug
very
it
proud of. I love Instagram. I think it's
Me too.
tremendous. And I've been Instagramming a ton. I hope people don't mind that I'm just blowing up their Instagram. But I was in Philadelphia. Every single corner, everything is so spectacular. So follow me on Instagram, Joe List Comedy.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I'm really proud of the pictures. I feel like I feel like an artist. It's exciting.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen some of the pics. They're great.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I'm gonna follow you.
Yeah. I think I follow you, but you haven't posted since I've been on. I don't think.
Oh, really?
The last 2 or 3 days.
No,
I've only been
okay.
on 2 days.
Yeah. It's been a while.
But well, thanks for coming, Ted. We
Yeah,
love you,
thank
and
you. You're
welcome.
everyone that knows you loves you.
Yes.
That I know, anyways. So and
Still looking for that weakness.
yeah, we have.
We'll find something.
We'll find it.
I feel like there's a very broad "What would Ted do" amongst the comedy
Yes.
community.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are doing that. I do it about 100 times a day. So
Oh yeah.
thanks for being here, and I hope you'll come back again.
You're
And yeah, and Mark, I love you. I'll talk to you in one moment when
Love ya.
we stop recording.
Oh yeah.
2 of my favorite people. Thanks for listening. We love you. Thanks you.